It is finally over. We did it, guys.
Woo! Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for.
With the latest chapter 203 of One Punch Man, we have finally arrived at the end of the Ninja Village arc. In this chapter, we actually see that Blast finally acknowledges Saitama's strength, but then we also get some kind of sneak preview to the final arc of this series. This is an arc in the manga that has lasted pretty much like 2 years now, maybe more. Honestly, I forget. It's just been so long and there's been so many redraws. I've lost track of how long this arc has really lasted. And honestly, the way this final version of this arc, this being like the third version now, I think, the way that it ended is honestly pretty interesting. I definitely have some comments on it, and I will say though at the very beginning that, like, compared to the other versions where Empty Void played a bigger role, and more importantly, Flashy Flash and Sonic played a much bigger role, I am a little disappointed with how, some of the things in this arc went. Primarily for the fact that Flashy Flash and Sonic and pretty much all the other ninjas in this arc were just set aside just to, make room for some more Blast glaze. I swear, I think we all want to find somebody that loves Blast as much as Yusuke Murata loves Blast. But let's just wait to talk about that at the end. For now, let's just go through finally what is assumed to be the final chapter of this arc, because honestly I think it is a pretty good one. So if you guys remember in the previous chapter, Empty Void came out of the man-sized hole that he got put into by Saitama, and him and Blast ended up piecing up two of God's monsters, like two of God's sacred beasts, I think they're called. Now, I've talked about this in a previous video that these sacred beasts are actually rooted in real Chinese mythology, and that indicates that there is likely 4 of them, and actually in this chapter we see another one. But first, today's video is sponsored by Fume, the leaders in flavored air. So I'm going to admit here that I have some pretty bad habits, and some of them I thought it was pretty impossible to quit. Well, turns out I was right. And the major reason for this was because it wasn't so much about quitting, it was more so about replacing for me. But thankfully, that's where Fume definitely came in clutch for me. There's no vapor, no nicotine, just natural flavored air. So you can use this thing pretty much anywhere. Fume is an award-winning and highly reviewed flavored air device that is not a vape. It has no battery and creates absolutely no vapor. So of course it has no nicotine, no toxic flavors, just refreshing flavored air coming from a super high quality device. And on that topic, this thing is just so satisfying to hold and fidget around with in your hand. It's made of high quality material that gives you this nice weight to it, and as you've just been hearing, as these nice little fidgets for you to kind of just mess around with throughout the day. Working on videos pretty much all day, my Fume comes in handy many times when I need to just fidget around and stay locked in on what I'm doing. On top of that, you also get several refreshing flavors to choose from, and my personal favorite is Crisp Mint, which is in this one right now. Never gets old. Fume has already helped over 500,000 people build better habits. Try Fume today, and if you order the Journey Pack now using my code AnimeAnxiety, you'll get a free Fume topper, which is an awesome accessory to level up your experience. Go to tryfume.com/animeanxiety or scan the QR code on your screen right now, and make sure to get yours today. But before that, we see that Empty Void actually breaks out of his monster shell and comes back to its senses. Blast runs to him and asks him if he's okay, and Void says, yeah, I was just in some kind of long haze. But they don't even have a moment to catch up, because at that very moment we just see that's good to hear, and it's Sonic and Flashy Flash attacking Empty Void simultaneously. So then we get this awesome panel of both of them striking and attacking Empty Void all at once, and the Tenito members that are kind of just watching on the side can't even see them moving. And this was cool to see because honestly I was hoping we would get a lot more of this from the entire arc itself. It is called the Ninja Village arc after all, and even to the chapter covers, I don't remember us getting any chapter covers that were related to any ninjas in this arc. Maybe a Flashy Flash one or something, but the majority of these were, Saitama, which I understand because, he's the main character of the series. Okay, I can give that one a pass, but even more than those, we would get these Tatsumaki and Fubuki covers that I get it, man, you love these two characters. Obviously a lot of fans love these two characters for obvious reasons, but come on, give us what this arc is about, give us some highlights of some ninjas here. If you're not going to do it in the story, at least do it on the covers, but again, whatever. And just when I thought we'd finally be getting the fight between Sonic and Flashy Flash and Void, like we did in the previous versions of this arc, this is when number 1 Aura Farmer Blast comes in and stops both the blades.
You can't keep getting away with it!
He comes to Empty Void's defense, saying that, you know, it's pretty much God controlling him and making him do all these bad things, like pretty much sacrificing Ninja Village members to create God's disciples and putting them through such grueling training. But Sonic and Flashy Flash say they pretty much don't care about any of that. They just wanted to test their strength against him pretty much. I don't know, in my opinion, it seems like the grudge that Flashy Flash would have had against Empty Void in particular, I wouldn't think that it would go away so quickly just with Blast saying like, hey, chill out guys. But you know, that's kind of how things went. Really, I'm just glad this is all getting wrapped up nicely. That's all that matters, right? Empty Void then starts pointing out how God's control over him pretty much brought out the worst aspects of himself. And he actually takes a moment to commend Sonic and Flashy Flash because they both seem like they're the only ones that know how to use teamwork. But of course, being the loners that they are, they both disagree with this, and this leads Empty Void to say that he has to return to his post against God now. I'm assuming the same post that Blast has been in, which is why he's been gone from most of the major events of the series. Empty Void then says that he's gonna make it up to his Tanito members, his disciples, but first he has to return to his post, and this is when the Tanito members start getting upset because they say that they didn't do this to have Empty Void make it up to them. They did it because it was their ninja duty, and that's the life they wanted to live as shinobi. That's when Sonic interjects and says, look, if you guys want to live as you please, you have to get stronger, you're too weak right now. Pretty much telling them himself, like, just lift, bro. This is where Saitama comes in and says, hey, maybe strength training comes in. That's honestly Saitama's answer to everything. It's just like, bro, just lift. Which honestly, it's some pretty good advice. Now, what's really exciting here though is that Blast seems to have finally acknowledged Saitama's strength. Because he notices that even when he fought Empty Void, he wasn't able to like expel the evil or the God's possession from his body, you know, just by beating him in a fight. But Saitama, on the other hand, just from to both Cosmic Fear Garo and now Empty Void, he was able to crack that monster shell and have that like evil power seep out of them pretty much. And this is when we get this awesome panel of Saitama where Blast just thinks to himself like, just what is his fist? Like, what kind of power does this guy have? So thankfully Saitama's finally getting some acknowledgement here. That is always welcome. Hopefully that translates to like actual hero popularity at some point in the future. But it doesn't seem like Saitama's getting any more fans anytime soon, or at least the kind that he wants. Because the Tanito members take what Sonic said to mind and kind of talk amongst themselves and figure out what their next move is. And this is like when the leader of their group comes in and looks all nervous walking up to Saitama on behalf of the others. And they all fall to one knee and ask Saitama the golden question, can we be your disciples? And then this is where we get like an allusion to the final arc of this series, like said directly from Blast. He says verbatim, for the final battle against God, your power will be needed for sure. When that time comes, lend us your strength. And as Blast is teleporting away with Empty Void, he says, I will come for you then. And then Saitama just responds by saying like, all right, I'll pour you some tea, I guess. So this is very exciting because this is kind of, again, giving an allusion to what the final arc of the series is going to be, like the fight against God. So, I mean, we kind of already knew this, but this pretty much confirms that Blast is going to come into play more fully for that arc. And, you know, Empty Void's going to join them. And I'm assuming like they're like intergalactic justice team that we saw in the previous Monster Association arc. But then interestingly, we cut away to where Blast and Empty Void teleport to, and it's described as this place like in between dimensions, in between time and space. And it's actually to the very spot where the defeated kaiju monsters that God sent were, you know, where they ran off to die pretty much. I wasn't really sure if they had died when Empty Void and Blast had attacked them, but it turns out that they have. But surprisingly, they also see that the third one that didn't come through, named Divine Beast Kirin, that one had like a massive hole blown through its side, and they didn't defeat this one. It turns out that Saitama had actually defeated it on the way to go see Empty Void, or to Sonic's hideout more specifically. Well, Empty Void wonders like, who did this? Like, who was strong enough to be able to do this? And then Blast is just smirking and he's like, I have an idea. Obviously knowing that it was Saitama. And then we cut to Saitama and Genos in their apartment, and Genos is of course being the best waifu and doing Saitama's laundry. And he notices that his cape is very dirty, and this is when Saitama's like, oh yeah, I took out some monster on the way here. And that's when we get the panel of him actually defeating this like dragon dimension monster sent by God. Yet another cool Saitama action panel. I'm never gonna complain against those. And then to conclude this arc, we see that a few days later, we have like this whole gang of ninjas pretty much like bothering Saitama, not leaving him alone. We have the Taninto members begging him to be their master. Flashy Flash that's still like delusional and thinking that Saitama's his disciple and telling them to leave his disciple alone. We also see Hellfire and Gale Wind that are prepared to take down Flashy Flash. And also of course Sonic, who's been there since day one, obsessed with battling and fighting Saitama. And there we go, that's the end of the Ninja Village arc, or at least I assume it is. We can now finally take a collective sigh of relief, guys. We are finally moving on to something else from here. Now obviously if you're webcomic readers, you know where this story is going. I'm not going to spoil that here, but I will say that it is going to be much more interesting than what we've been getting these past couple months. Super looking forward to that. I mean, this arc in its totality wasn't very bad if it was like just on its own, just this final version. I mean, in the webcomic version, Empty Void doesn't even really make an appearance for a full freaking page in the series. He's literally just one panel, like his hole in the ground. So I'm not really too upset that they cut Empty Void's screen time a lot in this arc. I'm more so kind of annoyed with the fact that they cut Sonic and Flashy Flash's screen time much more in particular. But again, I'm just glad this is over and we get to move on finally. Let me know what you thought about this final version of the arc in the comments below. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know. That's going to be it for this one though. Have an absolutely wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, whatever. Love you guys and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.